Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Have you considered subscribing? Let's have some fun. My friend James effortlessly climbed up the side of his tree. There was a rope with multiple knots tied on it, and James went all the way up to the top. I'd known James since about 3rd grade, but didn't meet him at school. My friend Fred, who I had known since the 2nd grade, introduced us. All 3 of us were at James's house and just hanging out. James came skittering back down the tree using the rope for leverage. He handed me the rope when he got to the bottom, indicating it was my turn. I got about 2 knots up and came tumbling down. I'm done. I thought as I was lying in the dirt. My expertise didn't exactly lie in physical prowess. Since I was a kid, I was told I could not play rough sports because I only had 1 kidney. I took the warnings to heart, mostly because I didn't want to die. That, and when people keep telling you, if you get hit in just the right way, you can die, you become extra cautious. Oh, and you learn to play video games very well. None of my friends could beat me in Street Fighter 2. James laughed. You okay? He helped me up. I know you can do better than that. I dang near tripped over my clothes while getting up because they were so baggy. It was the style at the time which I didn't mind because I didn't much care for my body. About that time, James's brothers came out and decided to take over the tree activities for the day. I mean, it was okay, but for some reason, I held some sort of resentment towards them. I have a competitive nature, and that tree was mocking me. Fred was over on the sidewalk riding his skateboard doing tricks, so we decided to go and join him. I could do an ollie, even then I could only do if half the time. I prefer bikes, for sure. It was getting late, so James headed back inside. Fred and I headed back to my house. Fred was overweight and has been since I first met him. He was nice to me in 2nd grade, so naturally we became friends. Oddly, the year I met him is the year he was held back. 2 years later, in the 4th grade, I was held back by the exact same teacher. She was hard to get along with for some reason. Now that I think of it, I held a little resentment for her because she took my friend away from me for 2 years. No wonder I didn't do anything she said. Fred would come to my house ever since we were young, and his mom would pick him up after she got home from work. When we got to my house, which was only around the corner from James's house, Fred's mom was already there. We said our goodbyes, and I headed inside. Inside was one of my friends. Well, best friends because we knew each other since we were 1 or 2 years old. Her name was Valerie, and I was envious of her in multiple ways. 1, I was attracted to her too. I wanted to be her. Was my life confusing? Yup. I waved hi to her, and she waved back. Hey! I said she was busy on the phone or watching MTV. I didn't know which exactly because I was headed to the kitchen. Valerie is in my imagination what I would have looked like if I had been born a girl. Same hair color as me, our eyes were similar, and she was about the same height as me as well. I warmed up some of Mom's refried beans in a pan so I could make a burrito. Instant food this was not, but we didn't exactly have instant food. We were more of a middle-class, homemade food type family. My dad was working all the time, something like 12 hours a day, so I never really got to see much of him. He worked hard for the money, and I'm pretty sure Mom treated him right. Mom got home from school, she wanted to be a teacher, and she had been working on it for most of her life. Dad came home around the same time. I didn't know where my brother Nate was. I had eaten already and headed to my room to play around on the computer. I didn't have my own phone line, so if I wanted to jump on AOL, I had to drag a super long cord from the living room all the way to my room. I wasn't in the mood to go through all the trouble today. Besides, Dad would likely be taking it over anyway after he was done eating. I played a few games, and when it got late, I headed to bed. I couldn't sleep, and when I closed my eyes, I only saw Valerie. There was an image burned into my skull of her sitting on the couch being so nonchalant. I was so jealous of her. She was so beautiful, and I wanted to be her so bad. I prayed to God to make me a girl too. I figured it was worth a try. It had never worked in the past, but I prayed anyway. My parents lied about Santa. Could they do it a second time, but with God? Doubtfully. Eventually, between crying and praying, I ended up exhausted enough to fall asleep. A few hours later, when I had to wake up for school, I felt completely destroyed. Mom had come into my room yelling at me to get up several times by now, and I barely had enough time to get my clothes on before I jumped on my bike and rode off to school. My high school was less than a mile from my house. We lived in a middle-class neighborhood where the school was literally 2 blocks away. The school was right next to the radio station, where my little brother and I would often head over there and get free singles CDs. During class, I wasn't too interested in other people or even paid them much mind. I didn't pay much attention to the classes either. The image of Valerie was still stuck in my head. It didn't help that there were a ton more girls at school, so I just ignored them all. I was in my last class of the day, which was computer lit, when one of my group members asked me if I liked a girl. The guy asking was Kevin, one of juniors from the grade above me. He himself was a looker, and I think he was on the football team. I looked at who he was pointing out and nodded to him. The girl he pointed to was someone I had checked out more than a couple times. Her name was April, and her hair was raven black, and she had these beautiful hazel eyes. Of course, I was attracted, wanted to be her, like all the girls I knew. Why did they get it so easy? Kevin ended up talking to her for me, and at the end of class, April and I ended up talking with me for a little while before she finally had to go home. What we said was not really important because I was just not into relationships. The joy in my day was riding down the big hill on the way home. When I got home, no one was there yet but me. I had a few hours to do whatever I wanted. I ended up on the couch watching MTV when I had an idea. I headed into my parents' room and began looking through their closet. At first, I was just exploring, wondering what I would find in there. But then I saw a beautiful white dress. The dress, for some reason, reminded me of something Madonna would wear. I wondered if it would fit me. I figured a dress wouldn't look right without boobs to go in it, so I began looking through my mom's dresser for a bra. Surprisingly, the dress and the bra I found fit. I wasn't exactly a chubby kid, and I was pretty active with my friends, so I was definitely fit. I ended up stuffing the bra with toilet paper, which, upon retrospect, took a whole lot of toilet paper. Inside my parents' bathroom, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. I somehow always ended up at a mirror resenting the image before me. This time, there was actually a little bit of relief. I had short hair at the time, but my body didn't look too bad in the dress. I had another idea. I began searching through my mom's medicine cabinet and found what I was looking for: lipstick. That helped a lot. I was finally able to grin at my reflection in the mirror. I ended up back on the couch watching MTV again. Was I doing it because Valerie was doing it the day before? I suppose I thought whatever Valerie was doing was what other girls probably did at home. I've always been a natural mimic, so I just copied what I thought she was doing. After about 30 minutes of just sitting there, I started crying. Why couldn't I have been born a girl? Something was building up inside of me, an emotion that I now know as shame. I felt shameful for wearing my mother's clothes. I felt bad, like I was doing something wrong. I stripped myself of the dress and bra, hung the dress back up, and put the bra away in its proper drawer. I started flushing the toilet paper and looked at myself in the mirror. The lipstick was still on my lips. I grabbed the toilet paper, wiped the lipstick off, dried my tears, and flushed the rest of it. For the rest of the day, I felt empty. It was then that I decided to grow my hair out long. If I couldn't be a girl, I would at least have long hair. From that point onwards, I would slowly start to get more and more adventurous, until today where I finally have accepted that although I might not be a girl, I can dress however I want. I'm now wearing feminine clothes daily, and I will do so for the rest of my life.